You feel it almost immediately. The person is inconsistent, hard to read, emotionally distant, and somehow, you relax more with them than with someone who is open and available. With the healthy one, you feel pressure. With the complicated one, you feel familiar. You tell yourself it's chemistry, but part of you knows it's a pattern. You trust what hurts more easily than what holds. If you've ever felt strangely safer with someone who isn't actually good for you, there's a reason, and it's not lack of judgment. It's emotional memory at work. It doesn't happen because you enjoy suffering. It happens because your nervous system recognizes familiar emotional terrain. Predictable care can feel exposed. Unpredictable attention can feel grounding, because you learn to organize yourself around emotional uncertainty. So when someone steady shows up, you feel unsure. When someone inconsistent appears, you feel oriented. Not calm, but oriented. This isn't weakness, it's conditioning. And once you understand how this pattern forms, you can stop confusing familiarity with safety and start choosing connection that actually supports you. Let's unpack it step by step. Let's begin with real situations, not theory, just moments you may recognize. You meet two people. One is emotionally available, clear, respectful, consistent in communication. You always know where you stand. Their interest is visible. Their tone is steady. Their presence is reliable. The other is harder to read, sometimes warm, sometimes distant. Messages come, then disappear. Plans feel uncertain. Attention feels irregular. When they show up, it feels intense. When they pull away, it feels heavy. Logically, you know which one is safer. But emotionally, you feel more pulled toward the second. Not because you enjoy instability, but because something inside you feels strangely familiar there. With the steady person, you feel watched, almost evaluated. You worry about doing the right thing. You feel slightly tense, like you're being measured. With the inconsistent person, you feel activated, but not judged. You feel engaged, alert, emotionally switched on. It feels alive. This is one of the clearest signs of familiarity-based safety, not health-based safety. Here's another common scene. Someone treats you well, and instead of relaxing into it, you start questioning it. Is this real? Why are they this nice? What do they want? This feels too easy. Ease creates suspicion. But when someone is complicated, guarded, or emotionally limited, you don't question the dynamic, you lean in. Difficulty feels believable. Ease feels questionable. Not because you distrust kindness, but because emotional effort feels more recognizable than emotional openness. Let's look at how this shows up in early dating. When someone is responsive and available, you may feel pressure to match their clarity. Their steadiness asks you to be emotionally present, and presence can feel vulnerable. But when someone is inconsistent, the focus shifts. You are not being seen deeply, you are trying to decode them. Decoding feels safer than being seen. Because decoding is outward attention, being seen is inward exposure. So the emotionally unavailable person feels paradoxically safer, because they don't reach deeply enough to activate your vulnerability. Distance reduces exposure. Distance feels safer than closeness, even when closeness is what you say you want. Another recognizable pattern appears in texting behavior. When the steady person replies consistently, you feel relief, but also a strange drop in excitement. No guessing required, no emotional chase. When the inconsistent person replies after a long silence, your emotional system spikes. Attention feels intensified. The moment feels charged. You interpret the charge as connection. But often, the charge is activation, not intimacy. Activation is fast and bright. Intimacy is slow and steady. Fast brightness can feel more compelling than slow warmth, especially if your emotional system grew up around unpredictability. Here's another everyday sign. With the emotionally healthy person, conflict feels uncomfortable because you don't want to damage something stable. With the emotionally unhealthy person, conflict feels almost expected, so you engage more freely. You risk more emotionally where the bond is weaker, and hold back where the bond is stronger. Because losing something unstable feels familiar, losing something stable feels frightening. Fear of real loss is stronger than fear of repeated disappointment. Now consider this social moment. A steady partner says, "I'm here. You don't have to earn this." Instead of relaxing, you feel unsure what to do next. Because earning connection is familiar, receiving connection is not. Effort feels structured, receiving feels exposed. When connection doesn't require performance, identity feels briefly disoriented. You don't know which emotional role to play. But with the emotionally distant person, the role is clear: pursue, adapt, interpret, try. Clarity of role creates emotional orientation, even when the role is exhausting. Let's look at emotional pacing. Healthy relationships move gradually, through consistency, presence, mutual understanding. Unhealthy dynamics often move through spikes, intensity, distance, reaction, intensity again. Spikes feel dramatic, gradual feels subtle. If your emotional learning history was built around spikes, subtlety can feel emotionally underpowered at first. Not wrong, just quiet. Quiet can be misread as lack. Another scene many people recognize. Someone emotionally safe expresses interest, and you start noticing flaws quickly. Too predictable, too available, too simple, too stable. But with someone emotionally unavailable, you minimize flaws. Too busy, too guarded, too complicated, but understandable. You extend more emotional generosity toward those who give less emotional availability. Not because you lack standards, but because your empathy system activates more strongly around emotional distance than emotional presence. Distance triggers pursuit, presence triggers evaluation. Pursuit feels more familiar than reception. There is also a bodily difference many people notice. With the wrong person, your body feels activated, alert, energized, emotionally charged. With the right person, your body feels calmer, and sometimes that calm gets misread as lack of chemistry. But often, that calm is regulation, not absence of feeling. We are rarely taught the difference. Activation feels like chemistry. Regulation feels like safety. Safety can feel quieter than chemistry until your system recalibrates. Another important everyday sign is emotional prediction comfort. With the inconsistent person, you expect inconsistency, so you are not surprised by it. Expectation reduces shock. With the consistent person, you expect consistency, and that creates emotional risk. Because if consistency breaks, it hurts more. So your system chooses the relationship where disappointment is already built in, because built-in disappointment feels safer than unexpected loss. This is not conscious choice. It is emotional probability management. Choosing the wrong person can feel safer because the emotional outcome feels more predictable, even if it is painful. Predictable pain can feel safer than unpredictable care, to a system shaped by emotional uncertainty. In the next part, we'll move into the deeper emotional mechanisms behind this, how attachment learning, familiarity conditioning, and emotional memory guide attraction more than logic does, and how that pattern can be updated. Now that you can recognize the pattern in daily life, we can begin to understand why it feels the way it does, not intellectually, but emotionally. Feeling safer with the wrong person is rarely about attraction alone. It is about regulation. Your nervous system is constantly asking one question beneath awareness. Do I know how to survive emotionally here? Safety, at this level, does not mean kindness. It does not mean stability. It does not mean health. It means familiarity. Your system feels safest where it already knows the rules, even if those rules include disappointment, distance, or emotional strain. Let's break this down carefully. When someone is emotionally unavailable, inconsistent, or distant, your nervous system activates. Activation creates structure. You scan. You adjust. You interpret. You anticipate. There is movement. There is focus. There is a task. That task is emotional orientation. The system says, pay attention, stay alert, stay engaged. Alertness feels grounding when it is familiar. Now compare that to emotional availability. When someone is open, responsive, emotionally present, and consistent, the system loses its familiar task. There is no scanning required. No guessing. No emotional decoding. And without those tasks, the system can feel momentarily unanchored. This is where confusion begins. Calm presence feels like emotional emptiness, not because it is empty, but because your system learned to organize around activation, not presence. So the wrong person feels safer because your system knows what to do there. Not because it feels good, but because it feels navigable. Let's talk about emotional prediction. With the wrong person, you expect inconsistency. You expect distance. You expect mixed signals. You expect disappointment. Expectation reduces shock. When disappointment arrives, your system says, I knew this was coming. There is sadness, but not surprise. With the right person, the emotional stakes feel higher. Consistency invites hope. Hope invites vulnerability. Vulnerability invites potential loss. Loss from a stable bond hurts more than loss from an unstable one. So your system avoids the deeper risk by choosing the smaller, familiar pain. This is not low self-esteem. It is emotional risk management. Now let's examine emotional control illusion. With emotionally unavailable people, you often feel like you must do something to maintain connection. Say the right thing. Wait the right amount. Show interest, but not too much. That effort creates the illusion of control. Effort feels safer than surrender. With emotionally available people, effort is not required. And when effort is not required, control disappears. You are no longer managing the bond. You are inside it. Being inside connection requires trust. Trust feels risky to a system shaped by inconsistency. So the wrong person feels safer because you are working on the relationship, not inside it. Working keeps distance. Distance feels safer than exposure. Another mechanism at play is emotional identity coherence. Many people unconsciously build identity around being the one who tries harder, understands more, waits longer, tolerates more. This identity feels meaningful. When someone shows up fully, that identity has nowhere to operate. You are not needed in the same way. And being unneeded can feel unsettling if your sense of value was shaped around emotional effort. With the wrong person, your identity remains intact. You are the patient one, the understanding one, the one who doesn't give up. With the right person, the identity dissolves and something new must form. New identities feel unstable before they feel authentic. Now let's talk about attachment activation. Emotionally unavailable people keep attachment systems activated. Activation creates intensity. Intensity is often mistaken for love. But intensity is simply nervous system arousal, not emotional depth. Depth grows through consistency. Intensity grows through uncertainty. If your attachment system learned connection through uncertainty, your body confuses arousal with bonding. So when someone stable appears, the body says, something is missing. What's missing is not connection, it's activation. And activation is familiar. Let's address emotional pacing. Healthy connection unfolds slowly. Safety grows gradually. Trust builds quietly. Closeness deepens steadily. But unstable connections unfold through spikes. Contact, withdrawal, reunion, spike again. Spikes feel dramatic. Drama feels important. Importance feels meaningful. The system confuses dramatic movement with emotional significance. Slow development feels boring until the system recalibrates. Now let's explore early emotional learning without going deep into childhood yet. If your early bonds required you to monitor, adapt, or pursue to maintain closeness, your system learned. Connection is something you work for. So when someone offers connection freely, it feels suspicious. Why aren't I working for this? What's the catch? Free connection challenges learned rules. The wrong person follows the old rules. Old rules feel safe, even when painful. Another powerful mechanism is emotional containment. Emotionally unavailable people do not reach deeply. They don't ask too much. They don't see everything. They don't require full presence. This creates emotional containment. You are partially hidden. Being partially hidden feels safer than being fully seen, especially if being fully seen once led to disappointment or rejection. So the wrong person feels safer because they do not demand emotional exposure. Distance protects. Now let's look at hope dynamics. With unavailable people, hope is intermittent. Sometimes they show warmth. Sometimes they withdraw. Intermittent hope creates strong emotional bonding, the same mechanism behind gambling behavior. You don't chase loss, you chase the occasional reward. That reward feels powerful precisely because it is rare. With consistent people, hope is stable. Stable hope does not spike dopamine the same way. The system misreads lower spike as lower connection. But stable hope is what builds safety, not addiction. Now let's normalize something crucial. Nothing in this pattern means you want to suffer. It means your nervous system learned emotional survival through familiarity. Familiar does not equal healthy. Healthy does not feel familiar at first. And familiarity can change. Not by forcing attraction, but by retraining safety perception. In the next block, we will look at where this pattern forms, relationally and developmentally, so you can understand it as adaptation, not flaw. Understanding removes shame. Shame blocks change. Once shame softens, choice becomes possible. And when choice becomes possible, attraction slowly follows safety, instead of familiarity. Patterns of attraction are not random. They are learned, emotionally, relationally, repeatedly, often long before you start making conscious romantic choices. And most of the time, this learning is not dramatic. It is not one big event. It is atmosphere, repetition, emotional rhythm. Your system learns what connection feels like, and later, it looks for that feeling again. Not because it was perfect, but because it was known. Let's begin with emotional unpredictability environments. If important early relationships were inconsistent, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, your nervous system learned to associate connection with uncertainty. Not total rejection, not total safety, something in between. Care appeared, but not always on schedule. Attention existed, but fluctuated. Emotional availability varied. This creates what we can call variable connection conditioning. Variable conditioning is powerful. It trains attention and attachment at the same time. You learn to lean forward emotionally, to monitor closeness, to track shifts, to respond quickly. Connection becomes something you must stay alert to maintain. Later in adult relationships, emotionally unavailable people recreate this exact emotional rhythm, and your system recognizes it immediately. Recognition feels like safety, even when the experience feels stressful, because the rhythm matches the template. Now let's talk about emotional learning environments. Some people grow up where connection feels linked to performance, behavior, or emotional adjustment. Not explicitly, but functionally. You receive more warmth when you cooperate, more approval when you adapt, more closeness when you are easy. So the nervous system learns. Connection is earned, not given. Earned connection feels legitimate. Freely given connection feels uncertain. When an emotionally available adult partner offers steady care without emotional conditions, the system doesn't fully trust it yet, because it violates the learned rule. But emotionally unavailable partners maintain the earning structure. You must try, adjust, wait, interpret. The template matches, so the system relaxes into familiarity, even while feeling strained. Now consider emotional role conditioning. In many families, children unconsciously adopt emotional roles. The stabilizer, the listener, the patient one, the understanding one, the non-demanding one. These roles are not assigned, they are adapted into. If your role involved tolerating emotional distance while maintaining connection, your system learned. Closeness without reciprocity is normal. Later, reciprocal closeness feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar can feel unsafe at first exposure. Not because it is bad, but because it is new. Roles become attraction filters. You feel drawn to dynamics where your learned role still functions. Now let's explore partial availability bonding. Some caregivers are loving, but emotionally limited. They care, but don't emotionally engage deeply. They provide, but don't emotionally attune consistently. They are present, but not fully reachable. This creates a specific emotional imprint. Connection exists, but full emotional meeting does not. The child adapts by bonding toward partial availability. Later, fully available partners feel emotionally intense, almost overwhelming, because the system is not calibrated for full emotional reciprocity. Partial availability feels more emotionally sized, more tolerable, more familiar. So unavailable partners feel emotionally right-sized to the system, even if emotionally unsatisfying. Let's examine emotional expression suppression environments. In some families, emotions are not attacked, but they are minimized. Don't make a big deal. You're too sensitive. It's fine, move on. The child learns to down-regulate emotional expression to preserve harmony. Later, emotionally available partners invite emotional expression, and this feels risky. Unavailable partners do not invite depth, and this feels safer. Because emotional exposure was once discouraged. Distance protects against emotional invalidation memory. Now let's talk about repair absence conditioning. Conflict is not the problem in emotional development, lack of repair is. If disagreements happened, but repair did not, the system learns that emotional rupture lingers. Unresolved rupture teaches. Don't lean too close, repair is not guaranteed. Emotionally unavailable partners maintain distance, which reduces rupture risk, which feels safer to a repair-deprived system. Available partners create deeper bonds. Deeper bonds create deeper rupture potential, and that feels dangerous when repair history is weak. Distance reduces repair risk. Repair risk feels threatening. Now consider intermittent warmth conditioning. Warmth that appears unpredictably creates strong emotional imprinting. Because the nervous system attaches more strongly to inconsistent reward than to consistent reward. Not by preference, by wiring. When warmth is intermittent, attention intensifies, memory strengthens, emotional focus narrows. Later, unavailable partners who offer intermittent warmth trigger that same bonding seesaw. Consistent warmth feels gentle. Intermittent warmth feels powerful. Powerful is mistaken for meaningful. But powerful is not always safe. Let's explore emotional exposure threshold. Some people grow up with low emotional exposure tolerance, not because emotions were absent, but because they were overwhelming when expressed. High intensity, low regulation, no containment. The child learns to limit emotional closeness to avoid overload. Unavailable partners naturally limit emotional exposure. This feels safer than high availability partners, who offer deeper emotional exchange. Exposure tolerance shapes attraction comfort. Now let's name something carefully and respectfully. None of these formation paths require bad parents. They require human limits. Emotionally limited caregivers. Stressed caregivers. Unregulated caregivers. Busy caregivers. Adaptation happens even in loving homes. Because adaptation responds to emotional pattern, not intention. This is not blame. This is mapping. Mapping removes shame, and shame blocks change. Another origin factor is early pursuit conditioning. If you often had to pursue attention, interrupt to be heard, try harder to be seen, your system learned pursuit as bonding behavior. Unavailable partners activate pursuit. Available partners remove pursuit. Without pursuit, bonding behavior feels inactive, and inactivity feels emotionally strange. Strange gets misread as lack of attraction, but it is actually lack of pursuit pattern. Let's normalize something important. Your attraction pattern is not your character, it is your conditioning. Conditioning is learned. What is learned can be updated, but updating requires awareness, not self-attack. In the next block, we move into pattern interruption, how to recalibrate attraction signals so familiarity stops masquerading as safety, and safety becomes emotionally recognizable. Now we move from understanding to recalibration. Not forcing yourself to like someone different. Not suppressing attraction. Not judging your preferences. Recalibration means updating how your system interprets emotional signals, so familiarity stops automatically being labeled as safety. Because right now, your attraction radar is not broken, it's outdated. It was trained under one emotional climate. You are now living in another. Outdated maps still guide movement, until new maps are drawn through experience. Let's begin with the first recalibration skill. Separating activation from safety. When you feel pulled towards someone emotionally unavailable, pause and ask, is this safety or activation? Activation feels like urgency, preoccupation, mental replay, signal decoding, emotional spikes. attention narrowing. Safety feels like breath space, emotional steadiness, predictability, clarity, room to be yourself. Activation is loud. Safety is spacious. Your system currently trusts loud faster than spacious because loud was familiar. Recalibration begins by naming the difference in real time, not changing attraction, observing its components. Observation weakens automaticity. Now let's introduce slow attraction pacing, one of the most powerful recalibration tools. Old pattern attraction moves fast internally, even if behavior stays controlled. You feel emotionally engaged quickly, invested quickly, focused quickly. New pattern attraction must be paced slower, on purpose. Not artificially, structurally. That means more observation, more time, more data, less projection, less fantasy layering. Fast emotional investment strengthens old templates. Slow investment allows new evaluation. Pacing is not emotional suppression, it is emotional measurement. You are not blocking feeling, you are timing commitment. Next recalibration tool, pattern spotting instead of person judging. Don't ask, is this person good or bad? Ask, what pattern is active in me, around this person? Do you feel? Pursuit energy, earning energy, decoding energy, proving energy, waiting energy. These are pattern signals, not compatibility signals. Compatibility feels mutual, pattern feels one-sided. Pattern asks you to work. Compatibility invites you to meet. Now let's talk about nervous system cross-checking. When attraction appears, check your body, not just your thoughts. Ask 3 questions. Is my breathing tight or open? Is my posture leaning or grounded? Is my attention calm or hooked? Hooked attention signals activation. Grounded attention signals safety. You are retraining attraction by adding body data, not replacing emotion. Another key recalibration move is stability exposure without pressure. Many people try to choose better by forcing themselves toward emotionally available partners, and that backfires. Pressure creates resistance. Instead, build exposure, not commitment. Spend time around emotionally steady people without romantic escalation pressure. Conversation, presence, shared activity. Let your nervous system learn steady energy without attachment demand. Exposure before commitment reduces defensive reaction. Now let's introduce familiarity withdrawal tolerance. When you stop engaging with unavailable patterns, you will feel a strange internal drop. Not peace, drop. Because you are withdrawing from familiar activation. The system interprets activation loss as emotional loss, at first. This produces cravings. To text, to check, to interpret, to re-engage. Not because the bond is right, but because the pattern is familiar. Tolerance means sitting through that drop without reactivating the pattern. This is not deprivation, it is detox from emotional volatility. Next recalibration principle, data over fantasy. Old pattern attraction fills gaps with imagination. You build emotional narratives from partial signals. You create emotional stories from small cues. Recalibration requires behavioral data, consistency, follow through, tone stability, repair behavior, emotional presence over time. Data replaces projection. Projection fuels wrong person safety illusion. Let's talk about micro-choice interruption. Patterns operate through small decisions, not big ones. Reply speed, emotional disclosure timing, availability level, attention allocation. Interrupt pattern through micro choices. Delay reply slightly. Don't over-disclose early. Don't reorganize your schedule fast. Don't escalate emotional depth before reciprocity appears. Micro choices reshape pattern momentum. Now an essential recalibration tool. Mutuality testing. Instead of giving more, pause and observe reciprocity. Do they initiate? Do they repair? Do they ask? Do they follow through? Unavailable dynamics survive on asymmetry. Mutuality exposes availability truth quickly, without confrontation. Observation replaces pursuit. Another recalibration move is comfort expansion training. Emotionally steady connection may feel understimulating at first. Instead of interpreting that as lack of chemistry, interpret it as new regulation bandwidth. Say internally, "This is unfamiliar calm, not lack." Language changes interpretation. Interpretation changes tolerance. Tolerance precedes attraction shift. Now let's introduce emotional exposure dosing. If someone is very emotionally available, don't open fully immediately, not from fear, from pacing. Gradual exposure prevents overwhelm. Your system must learn safety gradually, not all at once. Small openness safe response system updates. Repeated enough, availability stops feeling threatening. Next recalibration principle. Don't demonize your pattern, update it. Self-criticism strengthens attachment to old templates. Compassion allows experimentation. Say, "My system learned this honestly, and it can learn something new." No shame, only updating. Now let's address false boredom detection. Many people mislabel regulation as boredom. Ask, "Is this boring? Or is this calm without spikes?" Spikes are stimulating, calm is nourishing. Stimulation is not nourishment. Your system must learn the difference through repetition. Finally, the most important recalibration anchor. Choose emotional safety behaviors, even before attraction fully shifts. Behavior can lead emotion. If you choose clear communicators, consistent responders, repair-capable partners, emotionally present people, your nervous system eventually updates attraction weighting. Not instantly, but reliably. Because attraction is not fixed, it is conditioned. Conditioned systems can recalibrate. In the final block, we integrate this emotionally, so choosing healthier connection stops feeling like discipline and starts feeling like alignment. Let's bring this together gently. If you've often felt safer with the wrong person, it doesn't mean your heart is broken. It doesn't mean your judgment is flawed. And it doesn't mean you are destined to repeat the same relationship forever. It means your emotional system learned connection through a certain pattern, and it kept using that pattern because it once helped you stay bonded. Patterns are loyal, even when they are outdated. Your attraction has been guided more by familiarity than by nourishment. But familiarity is learned, and what is learned can be updated. Not by force, not by shame, not by emotional self-control. By awareness and repetition. You are not trying to stop feeling attraction. You are learning to understand what your attraction is made of. Some attraction is compatibility. Some attraction is activation. Some attraction is memory. When you begin to tell these apart, your choices become clearer, not colder, clearer. Let's remove a heavy fear many people carry at this stage. They worry, "If I stop choosing the wrong person, I'll lose chemistry." But chemistry built on uncertainty is intensity, not intimacy. Intensity burns fast and loud. Intimacy grows slow and steady. You are not trading passion for dullness. You are trading instability for depth. Depth does not spike, it settles. And settled connection is what the nervous system eventually experiences as real safety. Another important truth. Healthy connection often feels emotionally quieter at first, not because it is weaker, but because your alarm system is not activated inside it. No alarm does not mean no feeling. It means no threat. Threat has been confused with attraction for too long in many emotional histories. Your system is now learning a new emotional language, where steadiness is meaningful, clarity is attractive, and reciprocity is exciting in a different way. A calmer way, a more breathable way. Let's normalize the transition period. When you start choosing more emotionally available people, you may feel less certain at first, not more. That is not failure. That is recalibration in progress. Old attraction felt certain because it was practiced. New attraction feels uncertain because it is new. Practice creates confidence, not the other way around. You are building emotional taste, not following instinct alone anymore. Taste matures with exposure. Another integration point matters here. You do not need to reject your past attractions to grow beyond them. You can say, "That made sense for who I was then, and I am expanding now." No self-judgment required. Growth does not need insult, it needs permission. Let's also remove the idea that choosing safer partners means becoming guarded or overly selective. This is not about building walls. It is about recognizing doors that open both ways. Mutuality, responsiveness, repair, presence. These are not luxuries. They are the foundation of sustainable emotional bonds. And you are allowed to want sustainable bonds. You are allowed to want to feel emotionally met, not emotionally chasing. Another gentle reminder. You are not trying to eliminate attraction to emotionally unavailable people overnight. You are trying to reduce unconscious surrender to that attraction. Feeling is allowed. Following automatically is optional. That gap between feeling and following is where freedom grows. Freedom in relationships is not about control. It is about conscious participation. You are not suppressing your heart. You are educating it. And education takes time, repetition, and compassion. Now let's anchor something steady. Real safety and connection does not feel like adrenaline. It feels like exhale. Like your body does not have to perform. Like your words don't need editing. Like your presence is enough. Enough without pursuit. Enough without decoding. Enough without proving. That kind of safety may feel unfamiliar, but unfamiliar is not wrong. It is simply unpracticed. And unpracticed can become natural. Slowly. Through exposure, through awareness, through small choices repeated consistently. You are not broken in who you choose. You are patterned in how you learn safety. Patterns can change. Not by fighting your heart, but by teaching your nervous system what real safety feels like. And once your system recognizes safety, your heart follows.